Hi, welcome to 5149. This is James Lee. So, over the past week, we've had a ton of bad shit go down. We've had the murder of George Floyd. We are dealing with racist police officers, protesting, looting, all kinds of bad stuff. None of that stuff could be construed as any good for America. We still have COVID going on, so all kinds of bad. And once again, I think the media is focusing on a lot of these sensationalist us versus them type debates. Things talking about whether the protesters are in the right, whether there should be looting and rioting, and whether this is good for them or this is bad for society. Sensationalist type of reporting where CNN reporters are getting arrested. I'm not even sure if that was staged or if that was legitimate. But there's this type of sensationalizing of the unrest, the civil unrest that's happening in America. And I think one of the things I think they keep missing out on is why these things keep happening. Because I can remember this riot, of course, this is just happening right now, but I also remember Ferguson, Missouri. I remember the Rodney King riots from the early 90s in Los Angeles and many, many before that. And I don't know if I see it. I don't know if there's underlying data around this. I haven't looked this up, but I do not see a police necessarily doing a better job. There's still police brutality. There's still police treating especially minorities pretty poorly and unfairly. So why does this keep happening? Why do we have to continue to see unarmed black people getting killed at a disproportionate rate? Why does this continue to happen? So my opinion is that the training and pay of police officers do not actually reflect the roles and responsibilities that come with being a police officer. If you think about it, the police have a lot of responsibilities. They have to think about enforcing the law. They have to think about maintaining safety of the public, the people around them, themselves, even the suspects. They have to make really quick, snap decisions, life or death decisions, very, very quickly. And if you look at it, I don't think the training prepares them for this. So if we just break down what it takes to become a police officer, I think that becomes quickly evident. So I'm citing an article from USA Today that generalizes the requirements of becoming a police officer. And I know it's different for every state, it's different for every locality, even different divisions or units have different requirements. But I think it gives a general sense of what it takes to be a police officer. So if we look at it, there's typically very little education requirement here. So you need a high school diploma and a GED. Some college credits are typically involved here, but not a full degree. So you just need to go to some sort of community college or get an associate's degree here. So no degree required. You also need to pass a police academy entrance exam. So that probably takes a few more months of training to make sure those questions are answered. There's some physical fitness requirements here and about 12 to 14 weeks of police academy training. So this is the most intense period of training from what I've heard. And then after that, they pretty much go on a probationary period. So they're basically a police officer at that point. So to me, it looks like it takes about a year and a half to go through that entire training to become a nobody to being a police officer. So I just don't think that's enough time to learn everything that it takes to be a good police officer. There's so many considerations. There's cultural issues. There's social things that, and like decision-making things that you need to learn. Everything. There's just like too much that goes into it that just say, oh, you just need to go through basically an academy, take some tests, probationary period, then you're good to go. I think that's not enough. You need to have a more holistic type of training. I mean, if you look at it compared to like, say, a park rangers typically need to have like a 4-year degree in biology or environmental science in order to even become a park ranger. Then you need to go through a series of volunteer and working their way up to become a park ranger. And that's not the case for police officers. Much, much quicker. Even people like social workers need master's degree to do that type of work. So I think there's so many different situations that you need to be trained over a long period of time in order to make these, to like practice, to have your brain work in that kind of way. This is why when we go to college, they force us to take elective courses that are outside of our major so we can learn and have a more holistic education. I think that same thing needs to happen with police officers. You not only have to be trained in the technical aspects of the job, but also you have to be trained on a whole host of other things. And I think that takes time to be able to develop those skills and be able to learn those things. And so we're putting a lot of burden on the officers with the type of training they have. And if you think about it, the police officer job itself in terms of responsibility is so important. There's no room for like a few bad apples. Because if you think about it, okay, so other jobs, there could be a few bad software engineers, there could be a few bad accountants, but you can't have a few bad police officers. There's people's lives at stake, communities at stake. The same with, like a job like a pilot. It can't be just a few bad pilots. Pilots need to have a very high standard of excellence, and the same for police, for firefighters. that has to be reflected in the type of training that goes into it. Like I said, it looks like there's way more training involved to become a park ranger than a police officer. And I think, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to protect the forest than protect people who oftentimes have reactions that you cannot predict. So I think there should be a lot more that goes into police training. And that goes into a little bit the next piece I want to talk about, which is pay. And in my opinion, I think they get paid way too little for the type of work that they do, the type of responsibilities that they have. So looking up here on ZipRecruiter, just the average pay, the average salary of police officers throughout the states, we see something like on the lines of $50,000 or so, between $50,000 and $60,000 on average for police officers. But then if look at that compared to, say, a software engineer across all these different states, they're looking at six-figure salaries on average. The salary difference here is important, not because people who get paid more necessarily do a better job. It's more so in terms of recruiting and retaining talent. Oftentimes, and I hate to say it, but in our society, jobs that make more money, they attract more talent, or more people want to do those jobs. So naturally, if you have a larger pool of people to select from, you're able to pick out better people. So it's natural selection here. If you have more people that want to do this job, you're naturally able to select more people. So if you were to poll high school or college kids where they want to work, poll myself, police officers doesn't rise to the top of the list. You think about places like, they want to work at companies like Google or Apple. They're able to pick from the best people because they have like 1,000 applicants for every one job. But if you think about Google is like a glorified advertising company. Their main job, how they make money, is selling shit to people. And so we have our best and brightest aspiring to do that job instead of jobs that serve our communities, teachers, police officers, firefighters. That's a major problem. And when it comes to retaining, I can cite a specific example from my community here in Hermosa Beach where I live. We're in danger of losing our police department because we don't have enough police officers on the force. And that's because there's the pay here at Hermosa Beach is not equitable to other parts of Los Angeles and other communities. And so police officers are actually leaving the force. And so they actually can't have enough to staff a full police department. And so we're actually on the verge of losing our police department and having it replaced by the sheriff's department, which isn't great because part of the benefits of having a local police department in your city is that these people actually live in your city, so they're serving and protecting their own communities. So they can't staff and they can't retain. So this is the type of problem police departments are constantly facing. It's not even about fighting crime or keeping the public safety. It's even just staffing that's a problem. So that creates a situation where they're facing pressures from all sides. They don't have the best people to select from. The people that they have are leaving. And so how are they supposed to protect the community in an effective way if that's the situation? And the point I want to wrap up on, and tying back to the things that are going on today in Minneapolis and all over the country, is that unfortunately America is still racist. Racism exists. It is a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem, and this problem needs to be addressed. But this is also a story about priorities. I think in this country, we do not prioritize the jobs that are necessary for the safety and well-being of this country. Jobs like police, firefighters, social workers, teachers. These types of jobs are often, thrown to the wayside. Instead, today we glorify or even deify CEOs of these big tech firms, ones that create a pretty phone, or maybe they make an electric car for rich people. These type of things. We make it so that the young people aspire to these type of jobs instead of jobs that are there to protect, to serve, and ensure the well-being of our country. Thanks for watching. This is 5149 with James Lee. I would love it if the mainstream media would talk more about these types of nuanced issues rather than this us versus them type of reporting they do all the time. But for now, I'm happy to do it. Even if it's just 20 or 30 people watching this video, 20 or 30 more people talking about the important things. So, who knows? Let's blow this up. Please, as usual, like, subscribe. Let's take back our media, and I'll see you next time.